This week's Torah portion is called Vayera, which means "and he appeared." God, along with a couple of others, appeared to Avraham unexpectedly. Torah describes this as being in the heat of the day. According to Jewish tradition, it's also on the third day after Abraham's circumcision, which is a time of crippling pain. These unexpected guests appear at the most inconvenient time for Abraham, who's 99 years old. Interestingly, he jumps up and rushes to welcome these guests into his home. Abraham, as a nomad, is the first person in 20 generations of human history to reconcile a relationship with our alienated Heavenly Father. This is in contrast to his nephew Lot. Two of Abraham's guests leave his home and go to Sodom, where Lot invites him to his luxurious home. Here we see a serious flaw in his parenting skills that is capable of abusing and abandoning his children. While we know that he has 2 daughters, the Torah doesn't tell us how many additional children Lot had. Nobody's inspired to join this household, quite the opposite. Lot's household gets reduced down to his 2 youngest daughters, who he tried to throw out to a deadly mob. It would be a mistake to argue that Lot suffers from parental alienation as a father. Situations like this, where parents either abuse, neglect, or abandon their children, are never ever cases of parental alienation. When a child refuses contact with an abusive or negligent parent, this is called contact refusal. And while contact refusal can be confused with parental alienation, the two are different phenomena. In this week's Torah portion, Avraham expels Ishmael from his house. Could this be an example of parental alienation? No. Parental alienation is a phenomenon that develops in the child and not the parent. In this situation, Ishmael did not run away from his father, but was kicked out of the household. Therefore, if he were to refuse to reconcile with his father Abraham, it would be another example of contact refusal and not parental alienation. Yitzchak is born when Sarah is 90 years old and when Abraham is 100 years old. It's certainly a miracle for them to give birth to a child at these ages, and it won't happen again. God puts Abraham to the ultimate test, a challenge to give up his son Yitzchak. Judaism calls this the Akedah, which is the binding of Yitzchak. It's a binding because Abraham did not literally kill Yitzchak. Christianity, on the other hand, calls this the sacrifice of Isaac. Although there wasn't a literal death, Abraham returns home without Yitzchak in Genesis 22:19. It raises a question about their father-son relationship after the Akedah. Perhaps Abraham sacrificed his relationship with his son Yitzchak. Here again, people may confuse this as an example of parental alienation. In fact, it's another example of contact refusal. While Torah does portray Abraham's action as a justified act of faith, Yitzchak's reaction to the trauma caused by Abraham's action is also justified. Therefore, it's another example of contact refusal. Parental alienation is reserved exclusively for situations where parents have done nothing that would justify such an extreme reaction from their children. To recap, we've seen scenarios in this week's Torah portion that can be confused with parental alienation. These include severance of contact with an abusive parent, and severance of contact initiated by a parent, and reasonable justification for a child to leave a parent. Next week's Torah portion is called Chaye Sarah, and it will raise the question whether it's possible to reconcile broken relationships.